As I think you are aware, I do receive a mountain of correspondence. Without exception, and for many months now, that correspondence alludes to the untruths we were told during the coronavirus episode. The greatest crisis was not the virus, but the total absence of debate. If you dared to disagree with the quote-unquote accepted truth, all hell broke loose, and don't I know it. I wrote and spoke from the outset that what we were being told about the virus, about the medical response, about lockdowns and masks, and kids being kept out of school, businesses going broke, I had read widely and I cited world authorities arguing against what we were being ordered to do. I listened to the daily press conferences, which were based on nothing more than fear, alarmism and hysteria. And I remember being warned, Alan, you must understand that 500,000 Australians might die. Government then interfered with the relationship between doctor and patient. Shamefully, families couldn't visit their dying relatives. People were arrested and fined for sitting on a park bench. I wasn't alone in saying that this was dangerous territory, but there weren't many of us. And you paid a high price in vilification. Well, now the real truth is emerging. One unwanted voice in all of this was the brilliant and thoroughly researched Rebecca Weisser. Only recently she made the point, and I quote, "It was Stalin who said, a single death is a tragedy, a million deaths is only a statistic," unquote. Now, Stalin was then weakly lamenting the loss of lives in the famine that he had created in the Ukraine, devastating the Ukraine and confiscating all of its crops. As Rebecca wrote, the military shot starving people who tried to escape. Exactly how many people died is unknown, since the Soviet Union denied for decades that there had ever even been a famine. Rebecca further writes that despite this barbarism, there was no shortage of Westerners to whitewash the crime against humanity, including eminent people like George Bernard Shaw and Malcolm Muggeridge. Now, as Rebecca says, there is no comparison, of course, between the horrors of the Stalin-imposed famine in Ukraine and coronavirus. But she then says, and this is the guts of the truth, quote, "There is a comparison to be made in the ignominious role played or not played by the media." Rebecca Weisser joins me. Rebecca, thank you for your time. You are a very courageous lady, but as you know, disagreeing with the received wisdom of chief medical officers and their mouthpieces, heads of government, meant that you paid a costly price. But it's now clear, is it not, that much of what we were ordered to do and punished for not doing was fabrication?
That's right. And that was clear from very early on. As you said, Alan, anybody who looked at what the established science said about any of these matters, whether it was the actual severity of the virus, its lethality, the effectiveness of wearing masks to prevent infection from a respiratory virus, and then later on, you know, whether any of these early treatments worked or whether the vaccines worked, all the way along, we got basically misinformation from government sources.